Welcome back. We're going to talk about feedback. Our objective is to describe how feedback mechanisms maintain homeostasis and differentiate between negative and positive feedback mechanisms. Here are our key terms again. So a feedback mechanism is when receptors receive information about the body's current state. Control centers receive signals from receptors and activate the steps leading to a response action. They communicate with effectors, which put the control mechanism into effect. These components make up a feedback mechanism. A feedback mechanism is a process in the body that responds to a change in internal and external environment. An example, when we think about biological feedback mechanisms, it can be helpful to think about a central heating system. Central heat incorporates a feedback mechanism to maintain a fairly constant temperature in a home. The thermostat is the control center. You, as the resident, tell the control center you want the house to be at a constant 72 degrees Fahrenheit. The control center has a receptor, or the thermometer, which measures the temperature of the air around it. If the temperature falls below 72 degrees Fahrenheit, the receptor notifies the control center. The control center then activates the furnace, and the furnace is the effector. It produces heat and increases the temperature in the house. When the temperature reaches 72 degrees Fahrenheit, the thermometer sends a signal to the thermostat, and the thermostat shuts down the furnace. So, a negative feedback mechanism. Imagine we're waiting for the bus on a hot day. Your body's nervous system has receptors in your skin and deep inside your body that detect temperature. These receptors communicate with a part of the brain called the hypothalamus, which is like the body's thermostat. The hypothalamus is part of the nervous system and cooperates with other body systems to reduce body temperature. So body temperature rises, the body reacts by sweating, and the body temperature drops. The original stimulus, an elevated body temperature, sets off actions in the body that result in the opposite of the stimulus, a lowered body temperature. Negative feedback is when the stimulus sets off actions that are the opposite. Okay, so a positive feedback mechanism, for example, would be when the stimulus sets off actions in the body that begin or amplify a process. Contractions in childbirth are one example of a positive feedback mechanism. When a female in labor experiences a contraction or squeezing of the uterine or cervical wall, it stimulates a nerve located in the muscle. The nerve sends a signal to the brain, which then activates the release of the hormone oxytocin. This hormone causes more contractions, and these contractions activate the nerves in the muscle, which tell the brain to release even more oxytocin. So over time, the contractions become stronger and more frequent as more oxytocin is released. Homeostasis in cells. Cells have to maintain homeostasis in order to provide the support for an organism. What does cellular homeostasis look like? Maintaining a stable internal environment in regards to oxygen, glucose, mineral ions, waste removal, etc. is necessary for the cells as well as the entire body. Small adjustments are made at the cellular level to maintain this homeostasis. Certain processes such as osmosis, diffusion, and enzymes will not function properly without the right conditions. Water, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and other compounds have to be able to go in and out of cells. And this is completed through the process of diffusion and osmosis, which in turn is dependent on the body's water and salt balance. Osmoregulation. So through the process of osmosis, water can move in and out of a cell. Osmosis keeps both salt and water levels constant. Salt balances control many functions in the body. For the cell, isotonic solutions are ideal, and homeostatic systems work to keep it that way. If a cell is placed in a hypertonic solution where there's too much solute in the extracellular fluid, it causes water to leave the cell and the cell will shrink. Okay, homeostasis in plants. Regulating water loss is one of the most important functions in a plant. Water is a critical component of photosynthesis, and without water, a plant cannot make its own food. Plants also need to exchange gases with the air around them, such as taking in carbon dioxide from the air and releasing oxygen from their cells. Guard cells and hormones. Plants must maintain a delicate balance between allowing gas exchange and preventing water evaporation. Cells called guard cells surround the stomata and regulate their opening and closing. So how do guard cells know when to allow the stomata to open? When the plants are well hydrated, the guard cells swell with water and turn into a C shape. This allows the stomata to stay open. When water is not plentiful, the guard cells relax, causing the stomata to close. Plants also have hormones called auxins, which help regulate homeostasis. Auxins cause plant cells to elongate and stimulate cell growth. They serve a variety of purposes, one of which is to help plants grow toward a light source. Plants have different root systems based on their water availability. In drier areas, plants will have deeper roots so they can access water deep underground. These types of roots are called taproots. Plants that grow where water is more accessible will have a root system called a fibrous or adventitious root system, which also prevents soil erosion. Both of these types of roots help the plant survive in their different environments. Too much sodium, for example, can kill a plant, and some plants can live in higher sodium environments, but they have a thicker layer of epidermis in their leaves, which protects them from the higher salt content. Quick summary. Feedback systems, mechanisms can be either negative or positive. A negative feedback system is when the original stimulus causes the opposite action to happen. And then a positive one would be one that encourages something to happen or starts a process. Thanks for watching.